You have to make some really high stakes decisions after high school. Do you want to go to college? If so, where? What will you study? How do you pick a job or a career? What will you be good at? What do you like to do? What will you become? In a lot of ways, you have to make these decisions on your own. Nationally, there are half as many high school guidance counselors as there should be. In some states, there are only a quarter as many. Almost 1 million students in the country don't have one at all. The counselors that do exist only spend about 20 to 50% of their time doing college counseling. So it's up to you, and maybe your parents if they can help. But their experience may be totally out of date. Even your older brother or sister might have gone to college before the 2008 recession, and the job market has changed since then. So what's wrong with that? College is really expensive, whether or not your degree helps you get a good job. Right now, an associate's degree costs about $11,500 a year, and in-state public college costs about $20,000, out-of-state is $35,000, and private college is $40,000 a year. That's a lot of money to pay for a degree if it doesn't help you that much. On average, someone with a 4-year degree makes about $17,000 more a year than someone with an associate's degree, who makes about $2,000 a year more than someone with a high school diploma. But that's not true for everyone who gets a degree. College degrees aren't making people as much money these days because, we think, technology has started to replace skilled workers the way that robots started replacing factory workers in the 1980s. Which degree you get can make a big difference in how much you earn too. There can be more than a $30,000 a year difference in salary between two different college graduates. Plus, let's not forget that most people don't get a college degree. Only about a third of the country gets a 4-year degree. Another 10% or so get associate's degrees, and then another 20% go to college but don't finish any degree. But everyone gets a job even if they don't go to college. And a lot of people aren't very happy with their choice of job and aren't confident in their future. Slightly more than half of all Americans say that they aren't satisfied with their job, and that's the highest it's been in 10 years. More than half of all Americans also say that they're not confident in their financial future. And a little under half of people surveyed say that they don't work in the field they studied, and about a third of people say that they've never worked in the field they studied. So you have all these people making really important decisions who end up unhappy with them. So what do we do about it? Deciding what to do with your life is always going to be hard. People have been trying to figure out that as long as there have been people. There's a lot of research out there, so I pulled together a bunch of it to save you the trouble of finding it yourself. It's not so much a map as the starting line for a race. Hopefully it helps. When you're making this kind of decision, step 1 is to spend some time figuring out what you want and which of those things are more or less important to you. A lot of people only start thinking about what they want when they need to decide on a school or a job, which means they decide too quickly and they're only thinking about the choices right in front of them. Sit down somewhere quiet and think about what you want from a job or what you want to get out of college. Do you want to make a lot of money? Do you want to help people? Do you want to spend lots of time around other people or be by yourself? What kind of people do you work well with? What kind of people get on your nerves? Picture having someone around for 8 hours a day or getting to tell you what to do. What are you best at and where do you struggle? Think skills, not just subjects. Talk to your friends and family too. They see you differently than you see yourself and may have ideas you haven't considered. If you add together what's important to you with what you're good at, it will rule out a lot of things. If you love arguing and writing papers, you probably don't want to be a chemist. And if you love math, you probably don't want to be an English professor. If you want to be home by 6 p.m. every night, you'll be a different kind of lawyer than if you want to make lots of money. Some people recommend personality tests, though your mileage may vary. Asking questions like this will help you avoid making a decision for an easy reason, like what your parents want, what your friends are doing, or how easy the degree or job will be. Hopefully, after some time spent on your own personal vision quest, you'll have brainstormed a bunch of options, maybe even jobs no one's invented yet. Figuring yourself out in advance will then make your next task easier. Research. Oh, who doesn't love spending hours looking stuff up? Make a list of the questions you have. For schools or degrees, stuff like, how much will it cost? How many people graduate and get jobs? How much those jobs pay? How much it costs to live there? The rankings of different schools and professors? What kinds of alumni networks you can use? And so on. This gets down into looking at the requirements for different degrees if you're trying to choose between two. Remember that it might be more important to find a school that's great in your field than one that has a good reputation overall, since those specific professors and connections will be what you use. For jobs, ask questions like how long people stay there, what the pay is, the hours, how often people move up, how people like their bosses, what the average day looks like, and etc. With a job, one of the most important things to figure out is what sucks about it. No matter how good a career might be, there are going to be downsides. If you want to be a professor, get used to moving around the country chasing a permanent position. If you want to be a computer programmer, get used to sitting at your desk for hours and maybe getting carpal tunnel syndrome. If you want to work at a factory, you might end up getting stuck on the night shift. Maybe you're cool with that, but better to know now, right? How successful you are in the long run will be as much about what you can put up with as what you like. Some of the answers to your questions will be online, but you can ask friends and family, find friends of friends to talk to, or ask people in the field directly. In high school and college, there are people who get paid to advise you, even if there aren't enough of them. In the working world, there are professional career counselors, though you gotta research to make sure you don't pick a quack. Sometimes the best people to talk to are people in your shoes or just a little ahead of you because they're trying to solve the same problems you are. Ask college students about the school or degree you're interested in. Talk to people who are pretty new to the job or career you want to try. There are internet forums just for people to do this, like Glassdoor and College Prowler. Always be polite, but don't be afraid to get what you need. You're doing your future school or employer a favor by being well informed so you can make the right decision for everybody. You might find out that college doesn't make sense for you and that getting a certification or an associate's degree or even just plain work experience is good enough for now. You might also find that you're way closer to qualifying for your second choice degree or job than your first choice. Don't worry if you start to feel overloaded from all the information out there. You'll have a lot of info at first, but then you can rule things out and start narrowing down your focus before you ask more detailed questions. This is also why it makes sense to start thinking about a major decision like a college or a job field long before you need to do anything, so you don't feel rushed. Having said that you should use research to try and rule stuff out, it's going to seem a little weird that the next thing to do is keep an open mind. Most people find their job or degree and their path by stumbling into it. It might be a random friend who hooks you up with a job, or a random job that turns into a career, or a favorite high school teacher who turns you on to a particular degree or field. You never know where something will lead, so keep your eyes open. Even dead ends and failures can teach you something. People specialize so much that you might end up creating a new job that combines several different skills you have. Maybe you liked marketing and hated working in HR, but learned a lot, so you do marketing for HR firms. Similarly, knowing what you want is important, but sometimes you need experience to be sure. Maybe you need to take some classes before you settle on a major in college. Maybe you want to wait a year or two and get some other experience before you go to school so you get more out of it. Maybe you want to volunteer for different projects at your job to figure out if you'd actually be better doing a different thing there. Even if you know what you want to do, your early career is still more about learning than it is about quote-unquote being successful. All that learning and trying will pay off later. And if you're not sure what you want to do, pick a degree or a job that can be applied in a lot of ways, or a school where you could switch majors to a second choice and the degree would be just as good. The reality is that everyone guesses when they make major decisions, and everyone experiments. The trick is knowing when to cut your losses and move on from something that isn't working. As long as you learn something, it wasn't a dead end, so long as you don't spend forever on it. Volunteer opportunities, part-time work, and internships are all great ways to do this. They aren't available to everyone, but even 4 or 8 hours a week might be enough to figure something out. This is also one reason why you want to meet new people, especially people who are different than you, because they will bring you ideas and opportunities you wouldn't find on your own. Malcolm Gladwell talks about this in his book The Tipping Point, where he explains how research shows that the people you only kinda know are the ones most likely to open a door to a new job or a new field. Your closest friends know all the same things you do, so they can't help as much. This brings up that dreaded word, networking. For most people it sucks, but it's necessary to find your path and then to actually start on it. What seems to make it easier and also more effective is to focus on doing things for other people instead of asking them for favors. If you can help a person find a new connection or a new opportunity, or even do a favor for them, that's still networking. Asking people questions and letting them talk about themselves and give their opinions is kind of making them feel important, so even that could count as a favor. Another helpful mental thing you can do is question all your assumptions. For example, you might think that you need to love a job or a school or it's not right for you. But if it seems interesting and fits your abilities, give it some time. Scientists find we're actually pretty bad at guessing what will make us happy, even in knowing how happy we'll be tomorrow. Research also shows that people will feel more passionate about something as they master it. You might think that you need to make a lot of money to succeed, but research also shows that people accomplish more when they do something for themselves than when they do it for a reward. One theory about what kinds of work make us happy says that we need 3 things: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Autonomy means having some control over how you do what you do and when you do it. Competence means being good at it. Relatedness means knowing your work helps other people. All this also means that finding your career path is as much about figuring out how someone like you gets those things as it is figuring out what you like. There's also a theory that people tend to be either prevention focused, which means they're mostly worried about avoiding anything bad happening in their careers, or promotion focused, which means they're mostly concerned with moving up and getting more rewards. If you care more about rewards, you'll want to work in a field like finance or sales where people can get a lot, but there are also a lot of risks. If you care more about stability, you'll want to work in a field where things won't change too fast and you can always get a job, like healthcare or accounting. You might also think that making a big decision like this is a super serious deal. But if you are being adaptable, then this is only a decision for the next couple of years. Don't freak yourself out about it, or you'll be too scared to decide or to get anything out of your next choice. So, now that you're freaking out from all this advice, is there anything else you should know? You might not know that one of the most important things that predicts whether you'll be happy in your job is whether you have friends at work. You might not know that people who don't mention any real weaknesses in their job interviews are actually less likely to get the job because they're seen as being less self-aware and honest. Don't overdo it though. Which is another reason why you need to figure yourself out first. You might not know that there are millions of well-paying jobs in the trades like bricklaying, welding, and plumbing hiring right now. Mike Rowe, the Dirty Jobs guy, has a whole website about this. It's something else to think about if you're trying to decide how much school to do and what to study. Maybe you spend 6 to 12 months learning a trade and end up better off than if you had spent 4 years in college. To each their own. But forget all of this, because, most importantly, a lot of advice is wrong for many people anyway. People who research this stuff find that common career advice doesn't work in plenty of cases. So, really, as long as you're thoughtful and pay attention, you should be fine. Also, read The Adventures of Johnny Bunko. It's super short, it's got great advice, and it's written as a comic book. You won't be sorry. Having thrown all of this at you, what's the point? Why did I wait until the end to tell you that advice doesn't matter anyway? Imagine a world where you and everyone you know ends up with a job they like and they're good at. Imagine a world where college was cheaper because fewer people ended up with expensive degrees they couldn't use, and imagine being free of student loan debt earlier. Wouldn't that be a great world to live in? You can't change the world alone, but you can change your life. And there you have it. As always, sources are in the description. Please like and subscribe and click the little button below for alerts when I post a new video. Our next video will be an attempt to quickly explain the alt-right and white nationalism. Looking forward to hundreds of angry comments on that one. Thanks for watching!